Sound of Metal is a film from 2019, directed by Darius Marder and co-written by him and his collaborator Derek Cianfrance from A Place Beyond the Pines. The movie follows Ruben, played by Riz Ahmed, a recovering addict and a heavy metal drummer, who discovers that he is rapidly losing his hearing. Eventually, Ruben ends up reluctantly going to a rural shelter for deaf recovering addicts. It is here that he learns how to be deaf and where the majority of the movie takes place. I wanted to use a language of perspective that I had never seen before. When we think of point of view, we think of visuals, not sound. Some movies have thrown you into perspective through sound, but they are usually short moments and oftentimes don't relate to the image you are seeing. Darius Marder accomplished this mission by bringing in sound engineer Nicholas Becker, known for his Foley work on Luca Guadagnino's Suspiria and Alfonso Cuarón's Gravity. Becker drew a connection between Sound of Metal and the work he did as a Foley artist for the sound-obsessed Alfonso Cuarón on Gravity. He realized that the sounds of being inside a spacesuit were similar to Ruben's experience as a deaf person. The inner world of the suits in Gravity is a bit like when you become deaf, because it's a world of vibration. You start to feel sound through low vibrations, the low frequencies, through contact with objects. In order to capture these vibrations and bodily functions authentically, Becker used Riz Ahmed and some specialized equipment. Nicholas would come up to me with some kind of hexagonal orb that felt like it had been 3D printed in his steampunk workshop and placed it against my chest, Ahmed said. And he'd say, "Okay, blink. Now breathe. Inhale. Exhale. Now hold your breath so I can hear your heartbeat. Now swallow. Lick the inside of your teeth with your tongue." Another way that they created this sound space that felt authentic to the real lived experiences of deaf people was through the use of Ahmed's acting choices. During production, Ahmed wore a set of specially designed earpieces inside his ears. Rather than blocking sound, the earpieces emitted a white noise that prevented Ahmed from hearing his own voice, sending him into a place of a lack of control. That was a real test in the audiologist's office sequence, where Ruben is doing a sound test to see where his hearing was. Riz had those hearing things in, and I had control of them on my phone. Everything Riz said, everything he could and couldn't hear, was real. It wasn't faked, just like the music in the beginning of the movie was real. It kind of dared the actors and the world to be real, and we live and die with that. After we did that intense shoot in the office, Nicholas spent a good amount of time in that booth with Riz, miking his eyelids and down his throat, really getting into the minutiae of the moment with Riz's literal physical inner body. In addition to using recordings on set by the production sound mixer, Becker recorded using different microphones to capture a varied range of frequencies and perspectives. He compared this method to a cinematographer changing lenses. I'm recording 2 or 3 systems that are in sync, which are recording very different aspects of the sound. One will really define the space, one will be very nice in terms of color, one will work really well with the production sound. It's a bit like if I had a fisheye ultra-wide and a 50mm lens. Each layer is quite complex in how it's captured, so it permits me to move from one to the other without changing the sound, but with a change in the techniques. Along with the sounds used within the movie, they also used music, though it was a very small amount, since most of the movie is determined by the silence that Ruben is experiencing. Most of the music is diegetic, but there are some small additional music, and we were looking for a long time for what kind of sound it could be. I work a lot with these weird instruments called Bechet structures. They're these crazy metal instruments doing very weird acoustic drones, but they are really acoustic. It's a bit like an acoustic synthesizer, so we thought they would be very interesting because they are a bit like ghost music. Abe also found a metal guitar, which sounded really strange, so we ended up mixing this Bechet structure with this big feedback guitar. A bit like this additional music was a resonance of the diegetic music, echoing that. At its heart, Sound of Metal is a film about the realization and acceptance of change. Similar to the idea that an addict is constantly in the state of recovery, change is not something that a person can get through or complete, but merely accept and adjust to. This theme is clear in the film's beautiful ending scene, which I will talk about in a second, but is also present in an earlier scene from Ruben's time visiting Lou, his former bandmate and girlfriend, and her father. In this scene, we are offered a front seat view of Ruben's realization that his life has irrevocably changed. Not only has Lou's style of music changed since he left, but so has her life, and so has his. Listening to music will never be the same for him either, and neither will hearing. This naturally leads us to the end scene of the film. All this time, Ruben has been fighting, sitting with, and accepting his problem. Throughout his time at the Deaf Addicts facility, sitting in silence was suffocating and very angering experience for him. However, now that he has accepted his situation and the changes that have occurred in his life and will likely continue to occur, he is finally able to sit back and enjoy this peace of silence.